Patients should have a very active role in research and development. It takes very long to develop new medicines, and it takes about 12 years. It takes huge investments, and quite often research doesn't really do what patients want, doesn't address their needs, doesn't really address questions they're interested in, like quality of life, like patient-reported outcomes, like answering the questions that really affect patients in their daily life. And that's why I think patients need to understand and put into context when new drugs are being developed, for example, for myeloma, where they stand in the development process, how they can access it, and how they can contribute that the right research is being made. It is very important that patients are involved in clinical trials and research design, because quite often they have other priorities than the doctors and then the regulators and then the people in industry that actually define the trials. They might have a very different perception on the severity of side effects or on the quality of life parameters that are being measured. For example, a study that Myeloma Patients Europe did back in 2009 revealed that, for example, the perception of myeloma patients on, for example, neuropathy or hair loss and other things were by magnitudes different in terms of severity, what doctors thought and what patients thought. And this demonstrates how important it is to actually have patients contributing to the priority setting and the design of trials, because otherwise research will deliver answers that the patients don't ask. I think there's very different types of knowledge that patients actually need to know. The normal patient that actually considers to join a clinical trial needs to understand what the trial is about, how it works, how safe it is, what the risk is, if there are different arms, what the different arms are about, how he can or she can join the trial, whether it has that the patient has the right to withdraw his consent and leave the trial, and so on. So there are individual needs of the patient that actually joins research. But for the patient advocate that actually wants to influence research, they need to understand how research works end to end. So really understand how our trial protocols are being set up, how is research being defined, how is informed consent being compiled, how does the safety monitoring during a trial work, so in data monitoring committees, in investigator meetings, how is pharmacovigilance reporting being done, so how are side effects being reported, because only by having the technical knowledge on that, they can actually challenge the system, change the rules, and actually change how trials are being designed and run. So you need to have the technical skills, and you need to have the insights that only patients have on the disease and treatments and symptoms. And with that knowledge, you're perfectly equipped to actually influence how research is being done. It is very important that patient organizations engage in research, and they basically develop capacity building programs for their members that they can actually contribute to research. The EOPADI program, which is a permanent program to educate patients about R&D, has developed a lot of materials to explain patients how medicines R&D works, and they have developed training material. But this material on the eopadi.eu is generic, so that's in general for all diseases, because the processes of drug development are the same for every kind of disease. But myeloma patient advocates need to put this into context on the myeloma pipeline, on the drugs that are currently under development, on the specific needs that myeloma patients have. And that's why it's so important that organizations like MPE build specific education programs to train patients about how does it work in medicines R&D, where's the myeloma patient community involved, what kind of research is going on at the moment, and how do the research and trials that are ongoing actually work in that context. So setting the context and then training patient advocates all across Europe within the MPE membership, this is really important. And the EOPADI material is the base, and the work of MP is the actual implementation of such an educational program. So I think this MP Advocates training program is extremely important.